Manhattan Ashes and Sweet Deception. Chapter 1 The Return of the White Moonlight, Marriage Sentenced to Death. Evelyn's 3-year wealthy marriage was pronounced dead the moment her husband Aaron hugged his first love in public. At the annual Blackwood Foundation Charity Gala in New York, celebrities from all walks of life gathered. No one paid attention to the top-tier banquet anymore. Every gaze in the hall was fixed on Aaron Blackwood, Wall Street's most powerful financial tycoon. In front of New York's elite society, he abandoned his legal wife and tightly embraced Leah Thorne, his white moonlight who had vanished for 3 years. Standing alone on the terrace corner, Evelyn witnessed this blatant betrayal with her own eyes. She knew clearly that all her gentleness, tolerance, and efforts to maintain marital dignity over 3 years had been crushed into mud by her husband in an instant. Leah was Aaron's obsessive youthful love, the woman he had once almost abandoned his family inheritance for. Her sudden return was never a coincidence, but a premeditated plunder of love and revenge. The two hugged passionately, oblivious of the crowd. The ecstasy and longing in Aaron's eyes were the blazing affection Evelyn had never seen in 3 years of marriage. Their marriage was a cold political alliance. She was the perfect, admired Mrs. Blackwood, a luxurious ornament, but never the woman in Aaron's heart. After a long while, Aaron released Leah. All the tenderness in his eyes belonged to his returned first love. When he turned to Evelyn, his gaze turned cold, distant, and completely devoid of guilt. Leah leaned intimately against his side, her gentle smile sharp with provocation, tearing apart Evelyn's last shred of dignity with every word. "I never thought the one who would end up by Aaron's side wouldn't be me. Mrs. Blackwood, thank you for keeping him company for me these 3 years." The frivolous remark sparked a wave of whispers across the hall, nailing Evelyn to the stake of public humiliation. Aaron did not defend her in the slightest. Instead, he ordered her coldly, like issuing a business command. "The banquet isn't over yet. Go back to your post and entertain the guests." For his first love, he stripped her of her identity as the hostess of the family, forcing her to pretend composure and please others on the night of her greatest shame. The last glimmer of hope in Evelyn's eyes faded completely. She nodded obediently, flawless in her docility, yet her heart was reduced to lifeless desolation. This reluctant marriage had always been nothing but her self-deception. Chapter 2 Midnight Confrontation, a marriage reduced to confinement. The banquet ended at midnight, leaving the mansion dead silent. Aaron stepped into their bridal suite, carrying the distinct rose perfume of Leah. It was the most blatant humiliation, an unashamed declaration of his preference and indulgence. Before Evelyn could speak, he took the initiative to assume a domineering attitude, trying to justify his mistake with cold authority. "Do not overthink tonight's incident. No scenes, no trouble." Evelyn looked up, facing his indifference and finally breaking her 3 years of silence. "You hugged your first love in public and made me the laughingstock of New York. How can I not overthink it? Aaron, what gives you the right? Leah and I share a decade of history you could never understand." Aaron's tone was perfunctory and impatient, dismissing his betrayal as a mere emotional lapse. "Our marriage was a family transaction from the start. Stay in your place as Mrs. Blackwood, and I will secure glory and stability for you and your family. That is all." His candid transactional view completely tore off the last disguise of their marriage. Pain surged through Evelyn's chest, yet her mind was eerily clear. "So you are allowed to rekindle your old love within marriage, while I must endure humiliation and be your lifelong ornament and stepping stone?" "Yes." Aaron did not deny it, even threatening her blatantly. "Your family relies on the Blackwoods for survival. You have no right to be willful. Do not force me to retaliate against the entire Evelyn family because of you." Using her family as leverage was his dirtiest, yet most accurate tactic. Yet 3 years of tolerance had long exhausted all her love, leaving only absolute resolution. She spoke firmly and clearly. "Then I'm done playing. Aaron, I want a divorce." The word divorce enraged the paranoid and domineering Aaron instantly. He stepped forward fiercely, grabbing her wrist tightly, trapping her in place. Hostility surged in his eyes, terrifyingly possessive. "Evelyn, you will never get a divorce without my permission. I do not love you, but you are my wife. Only I can abandon you, you will never leave me. The sharp pain spread from her wrist throughout her body, yet it paled in comparison to the cold agony in her heart. He hurt her, humiliated her, and intended to confine her for a lifetime, refusing to let her escape. Chapter 3 The White Moonlight Scheme, a perfect retreat and strike kill. Meanwhile, in the mansion's VIP suite, Leah dropped her gentle disguise, her eyes filled with triumphant calculation. Aaron pushed open the door, all his cold hostility toward Evelyn fading, replaced by weary indulgence for his first love. Evelyn is demanding a divorce, he said in a low voice. Leah was overjoyed inwardly, yet she immediately put on a wronged and sensible act, eyes glistening with fake tears, pretending to retreat. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come back and disrupted your marriage. I should leave. I don't want to ruin your reputation. She pretended to stand up and leave, precisely grasping Aaron's guilt and obsession. As expected, Aaron pulled her tightly into his arms at once, his tone firm and doting. This has nothing to do with you. I have never loved Evelyn. These 3 years of marriage were nothing but compromise. Now that you're back, I will never let you go again. Leah hid in his embrace, a cold smile curving on her lips, continuing her deliberate manipulation. But she is your legally wedded Mrs. Blackwood. I have no status and will only hold you back. I don't mind suffering, but I hate seeing you criticized. Her sensible retreat contrasted sharply with Evelyn's resistance, completely reshaping Aaron's perception and making him view Evelyn as unreasonable and vexatious. No fame or status matters more than you. Aaron made a solemn promise. I abandoned you for my family 3 years ago, and I have regretted it every single day. Give me time, and I will settle everything with Evelyn. This position was always meant for you. This was exactly the result Leah had spent 3 years in exile planning for. Her sudden departure 3 years ago was never a breakup, but a scheme. She knew Aaron perfectly. He never cherished what he easily obtained, only what he had lost and regained. She had calculated his love, his guilt, and how the docile Evelyn would become the perfect sacrifice for their relationship. Her return was never for a fleeting affair. She aimed to seize Evelyn's position completely, become the legitimate Mrs. Blackwood, and drive the woman who had replaced her for 3 years into ruin and humiliation. Chapter for double standards of the family, the victim held responsible. Early the next morning, the Blackwood family summoned an emergency meeting, targeting all blame at Evelyn, the true victim. The scandal had spread across New York's high society. Everyone knew Aaron had disgraced himself by embracing his first love in public, yet the family elders ignored his betrayal entirely to protect their heir, choosing to condemn Evelyn for being unreasonable and ruining the family's reputation. Evelyn, as Mrs. Blackwood, you refused to tolerate your husband's past, through a public scene, and demanded a divorce, tarnishing the family tradition. Do you plead guilty? The elder's voice was stern and oppressive. Evelyn lifted her head calmly, unyielding in the face of injustice. I plead innocent. Betrayal came first. I will not atone for others' mistakes. She spoke the truth plainly, but noble families only valued interests, never right or wrong. The elders' double standards were blatant. Aaron holds the family's industrial power. Emotional entanglements are forgivable. As the matriarch, you should stabilize the household and be tolerant, not make a mountain out of a molehill. I cannot do that. Evelyn refused firmly. My bottom line cannot tolerate betrayal and humiliation. I still insist on a divorce. Aaron, who had remained silent, grew thoroughly impatient and warned coldly. Evelyn, do not be disrespectful in front of the elders. Do not force me to withdraw all leniency toward you. Leniency? Evelyn sneered. You have never been lenient with me. You only indulge your obsessions, your first love, and your own selfishness. The dispute ended with extreme injustice. Evelyn was confined to the mansion for 1 month, forbidden from mentioning divorce and ordered to reflect on her mistakes. Aaron, the true offender, faced no accountability. Leah, the homewrecker, moved freely through the mansion. Only the wronged legal wife was imprisoned and silenced, becoming the laughingstock of New York's elite. After the meeting, in the empty corridor, Aaron looked down at her with icy contempt. Now you know the consequence of defying me. Behave, and you and your family will remain safe. Evelyn raised her eyes, no longer holding any love, only cold resolution. I will behave, but I will never resign myself to fate. Aaron, every injustice you've inflicted on me, I will pay back tenfold. From that day on, she abandoned her gentleness. She no longer craved love, only planning her escape and waiting for her counterattack from despair. Chapter 5 Provocation after provocation, the white moonlight's torture. Evelyn's confinement was endless torment, yet Leah took it as a chance to flaunt her sovereignty wantonly. Leah stayed in the Blackwood mansion every night, occupying Evelyn's kitchen, courtyard, and Aaron's entire leisure time. She brazenly seized the hostess's life and staged intimate love scenes right in front of Evelyn, torturing her mentally with every word and action. One afternoon, Evelyn sat quietly reading in the courtyard, calming her chaotic mind. Leah walked over with 2 cups of coffee, her gentle facade hiding vicious ambition. How does it feel to be confined and disciplined, Mrs. Blackwood? Leah smiled warmly, yet her tone was full of mockery. All of New York is laughing at you. You hold an empty marriage and a hollow title, what dignity do you have left? Evelyn glanced up calmly and retorted. My dignity is defined by myself. It is far better than sneaking into others' marriages and seizing what does not belong to you, ending up nameless and despised. Leah's gentle smile shattered instantly, malice flashing in her eyes. Aaron and I have a deep-rooted love long before you married him. If the family hadn't stopped me, you would never have stepped foot in this mansion. You are nothing but a substitute. Substitute or legal wife, my status is established. No outsider has the right to question it. Evelyn remained unshaken. What is yours will come to you. What is not yours can never be seized by force. Provoked by her composure, Leah lowered her voice and threatened fiercely. Do not deceive yourself. Aaron has never loved you, not in 3 years, not ever. No matter how tolerant and sensible you are, you can never keep him. His heart has always belonged only to me. Evelyn replied indifferently, her heart completely untouched. I stopped loving him a long time ago. I never expected his love. This sentence completely crushed Leah's provocative confidence. She had intended to irritate Evelyn into collapse and tears, but never expected this once docile woman to be utterly indifferent, free from emotional bondage, only focused on cold counterattack. Unwilling to lose, Leah pressed further. You don't love him, but you are trapped here with no way out. You can only watch me stay by Aaron's side day and night, watch me replace you step by step and become the true Mrs. Blackwood. Evelyn closed her book, her eyes cold and decisive. We shall wait and see. In the end, one of us will leave in disgrace, empty-handed. Chapter 6 Underflowing Feelings, the husband's unknowing falling love. Leah's deliberate flattery and scheming tenderness continued every day. She took perfect care of Aaron's daily life, acting sensible and considerate, catering to all his preferences and performing the role of a devoted lover flawlessly. Compared with Evelyn's current coldness and stubbornness after confinement, Aaron found Leah increasingly agreeable and Evelyn more and more annoying and rebellious. Yet beneath his cold exterior, Aaron harbored unexplainable irritability and fluster that he refused to admit. Once, Evelyn had been gentle and attached, accommodating to all his needs, her eyes always filled with tender admiration for him. But after their midnight confrontation, she had changed completely. No more tears, no more quarrels, no more extra emotions, she treated him like a total stranger. Her desperate calmness irritated him far more than hysterical fights. One evening, after finishing work, Aaron caught sight of Evelyn standing alone under the rose trellis in the courtyard. Her figure looked thin and lonely, isolated from the whole world. The evening wind brushed past her, yet she remained motionless, her eyes empty and indifferent. A strange tightness gripped Aaron's heart, accompanied by long-lost guilt. He suddenly recalled the faint blue bruise on her wrist left by his violent grip days ago. Leah stepped forward in time, hooking his arm and acting coquettishly on purpose, cutting off his line of sight. "Aaron, you must be tired. I cooked your favorite soup. Let's go back inside." Aaron snapped out of his trance, forcing down the strange turmoil in his heart. He withdrew his gaze and let Leah lead him away. But he knew clearly that something had irreversibly changed. He imprisoned Evelyn stubbornly, claiming to hate her rebellion, yet he had unconsciously developed tender feelings and overwhelming possessiveness toward his loveless wife. This belated crush would eventually become the source of all their tangled pain, triggering more dramatic conflicts, hidden family secrets, and vengeful love and hatred. Chapter 7 Accidental Warmth, the first crack in Aaron's prejudice. The 1-month confinement order was absolute. The Blackwood Mansion servants were strictly instructed to cut off all of Evelyn's external contact. She had no access to social media, no way to contact her family, and no chance to step out of the luxurious cage. Leah took advantage of this period to solidify her position thoroughly. She moved all her personal belongings into Aaron's private living area, arranged his daily schedule, screened his private messages, and even replaced Evelyn's exclusive personal servants with her own trusted aides. The entire mansion tacitly recognized Leah as the de facto hostess. All servants curried favor with her, flattering her attentive care for Aaron, while treating the real Mrs. Blackwood as a transparent, fallen outcast. Evelyn did not fight, complain, or explain. She spent every day reading financial journals, sorting out old family industry data, and silently memorizing the internal resource chains of the Blackwood Group. No one knew that she was never wasting her time. She was accumulating strength, carving out a way to break free from the bottom of the abyss. On the 10th night of her confinement, New York was hit by a sudden violent storm. Thunder roared and lightning split the night sky, and the temperature plummeted sharply. Aaron had been working overtime at the group headquarters until late, soaked through by the rain on his way back. He suffered from a long-standing old cold injury in his waist, which flared up violently in the rainy cold, bringing sharp, tearing pain. Leah had always known about his old injury, yet she only knew to act coquettishly and seek favor on weekdays. She had no idea how to soothe his pain, nor did she have the patience to take meticulous care of his physical discomfort. That night, after Aaron returned to the suite, he lay on the bed with a pale face, unable to straighten his waist. Leah busied herself making hot ginger tea, yet she was flustered and clumsy, spilling most of the tea and burning her fingers slightly. She immediately put on a wronged expression, rushing to Aaron's side to act pitiful. "Aaron, it hurts so much. I'm so useless, I can't even make a cup of ginger tea well." Her first priority was always gaining his distress and comfort, rather than easing his severe physical pain. Aaron's waist pain was unbearable, his forehead covered in cold sweat. He originally wanted quiet rest, yet he could only force himself to comfort her weak and sensitive mood. At this moment, the bedroom door was gently pushed open. Evelyn stood at the door, holding a clean warm medicinal towel and a professionally prepared warm compress bag for cold injuries. She did not take the initiative to greet or explain herself, nor did she have any intention of showing off kindness or begging for favor. She had heard the thunder and knew his old injury would recur on rainy nights. For 3 years of marriage, she had memorized all his physical habits and hidden illnesses, far more thoroughly than his so-called beloved first love. "Get out of the way." Evelyn spoke indifferently, her tone calm and businesslike, without any lingering affection or grievance. Leah's face turned cold instantly, blocking her way vigilantly. "What are you doing here? This is Aaron's private suite. You have no right to enter. I am his legal wife. I know his old cold injury better than you." Evelyn did not look at her, her gaze fixed on Aaron's painful face. "Your clumsy acting will only delay his recovery." Aaron, who was in severe pain, narrowed his eyes and looked at Evelyn. He had always thought she was docile and dull, only knowing to obey and please him. Yet at this moment, she was calm, precise, and decisive, with a rare sense of reliability. Without waiting for anyone's permission, Evelyn walked to the bedside, put down the medicinal supplies, lifted the quilt neatly, and placed the warm compress bag accurately on his waist's painful acupoints. Her movements were skilled and steady, accumulated from 3 years of silent care. The warm medicinal heat penetrated the skin quickly, soothing the tearing cold pain in his waist. Aaron's tensed body finally relaxed slightly, and the cold sweat on his forehead gradually subsided. Evelyn adjusted the temperature properly, covered the quilt for him neatly, and reminded him plainly. Keep it for 20 minutes. Don't get cold again tonight. No cold drinks or alcohol tomorrow. After finishing all this, she turned to leave without a single extra word or glance. No pleading, no grievances, no intention of reconciling. She simply solved his physical problem like a professional doctor, then left decisively. Watching her thin and indifferent back, Aaron's heart was filled with unprecedented complexity. Leah, who was ignored, was furious and grabbed Aaron's arm hurriedly, trying to stir up trouble. Aaron, look at her attitude. She's so rude and arrogant, she's clearly cursing me for being useless. But Aaron did not comfort her as usual. His eyes were still fixed on the closed bedroom door, and for the first time, he felt a faint sense of irritability toward Leah's endless fussing. Be quiet. His voice was low and cold. This was the first time he had spoken coldly to Leah since her return. The first crack appeared in his long-standing prejudice and obsession. Chapter 8 Delayed Regret, the hidden truth of Leah's departure. After that night, Aaron's state of mind changed subtly and imperceptibly. He still stayed with Leah, still spoke coldly to Evelyn, still insisted that he only loved his first love. But he could no longer devote himself wholeheartedly to the sweet false tenderness Leah wove for him. He would inadvertently glance at the courtyard where Evelyn often stayed, inadvertently pay attention to her meals and rest, and inadvertently care whether she was suffering from the cold or fatigue during her confinement. The more Leah deliberately showed off her sweetness and tenderness, the more empty and pretentious her performance became in Aaron's eyes. On the 15th day of confinement, an old European financial partner visited the Blackwood mansion for business negotiations. This partner had cooperated with the Blackwood Group for many years and was also an elder who had witnessed the entanglement between Aaron and Leah back then. During the negotiation dinner, the guest chatted casually with Aaron. I still remember Miss Leah. She left Europe suddenly 3 years ago, and everyone thought she was desperate over your failed marriage arrangement. But I accidentally heard that she took a large sum of venture capital from a mysterious person before leaving. Aaron's movement of holding the wine glass paused abruptly. His deep eyes turned cold in an instant. What do you mean? It's nothing important, just a casual gossip. The guest smiled and waved his hand, not daring to delve into the Blackwood family's private affairs. It's just strange. If she really loved you deeply, how could she have taken a huge amount of money and disappeared without a word? It was never a simple elopement or escape. These words were like a sharp blade, piercing through the perfect love memory Aaron had guarded for 3 years. He had always believed that Leah left because of helplessness and grievance, because she could not resist the family's suppression, because she loved him too much and could only choose to leave sadly. But the truth hinted by the outsider was completely different from his cognition. After the dinner ended, Aaron returned to the mansion in a heavy mood. He looked at Leah, who was waiting for him with a gentle smile as usual, and for the first time, he felt deep doubt in his heart. That night, he took the initiative to ask, 3 years ago before you left, did you receive a large sum of anonymous capital injection? Leah's smile froze for a moment, and her eyes flashed with obvious panic, which she quickly covered up. Where did you hear the nonsense? I left simply because I was tired of the disputes between your families. I had no money, no backing, only helplessness. She spoke tearfully, aggrieved and helpless, perfectly repeating the set of excuses she had used for 3 years. But Aaron no longer believed her blindly. The subtle panic in her eyes was enough to prove that there was a huge hidden secret behind her departure. The doubt took root in his heart overnight, growing wildly. He suddenly realized that he had never truly understood the woman he had obsessed over for a decade. All his persistent love was probably just a well-arranged scam. Chapter 9 Reversal of Perception, Aaron's Silent Regret. From that day on, Aaron began to secretly investigate the truth of Leah's departure 3 years ago, while unconsciously observing Evelyn's every move. The more he observed, the more guilty and regretful he felt. During her confinement, Evelyn never complained to her natal family, never deliberately sold miserably to win sympathy. She endured the unfair confinement silently, yet she still remembered his physical habits and took the initiative to help him relieve his pain when he was sick. In contrast, Leah's tenderness was all performance, all for profit and position. One afternoon, Aaron passed the study and saw Evelyn sitting by the window, carefully sorting out the Blackwood Group's flawed investment projects over the years. She marked the loss points and risk loopholes one by one, with rigorous logic and precise vision, far surpassing many senior executives in the group. He was completely stunned. He had always thought Evelyn was just a well-bred noble lady, gentle and ignorant of business, relying entirely on the Blackwood family's glory. Only now did he know that she was extremely intelligent and talented in capital operation. She had hidden her edge for 3 years, only to maintain the harmony of their marriage. She had always been the one who was truly suitable for him, steady, wise, and compatible with his career and life. Leah only loved his status and wealth. Evelyn had always tolerated his indifference and guarded his family silently. Regret flooded Aaron's heart like a tide, almost drowning him. That evening, Leah noticed Aaron's alienation and took the initiative to question him coquettishly. "Aaron, you've been ignoring me lately. Are you blaming me for something?" Aaron looked at her pretentious aggrieved face and finally lost all patience. "Leave me alone tonight." Leah froze on the spot, unable to believe her ears. All the sweet words Aaron had spoken to her in the past few weeks echoed in her mind, and panic instantly swept over her. She reached out to hold his arm, but he dodged her touch coldly and walked straight to the study, locking the door behind him. For the first time since she returned, Leah was left alone in the empty bedroom without any comfort or explanation. Her carefully built gentle mast cracked completely, revealing the vicious, calculating core beneath. She slammed the vase on the nightstand to the ground, shattering ceramic fragments all over the carpet. Evelyn heard the crash from her remote bedroom wing. She did not go to check, nor did she feel the slightest joy at Leah's breakdown. She only flipped another page of financial reports, fully focused on planning her escape from this suffocating family. Chapter 10 Hidden Family Conspiracy, The Truth About the Forced Marriage. Aaron spent the whole night locked in the study, contacting private investigators to dig deep into Leah's whereabouts 3 years prior. By midnight, the first batch of investigation files was sent to his encrypted mailbox, full of shocking evidence. 3 years ago, Leah had accepted a confidential payment of $50 million from the rival consortium of Blackwood Group. The condition was that she cut off all contact with Aaron and disappeared from New York for at least 3 years. The competitors had feared that Aaron and Leah's deep love would make him ignore corporate benefits and reject the political marriage arranged between Blackwood and the Evelyn family. Leah had agreed without hesitation. The huge funds allowed her to travel freely across Europe, buy luxury real estate, and live a lavish life without any restraint. Every sad story of forced separation and heartbreak she told Aaron was fabricated word by word to win his sympathy. Aaron stared at the bank transfer records, hotel receipts, and witness statements, his knuckles turning white as he clenched the tablet. Every warm memory he cherished for a decade turned into a bitter joke, a fraud designed for money and corporate competition. He thought he had lost his true love 3 years ago, but in reality, he had escaped a scheming gold digger. The woman he had neglected and hurt for 3 years, the quiet, capable Evelyn, was the only sincere person beside him all along. Guilt gnawed at his bones. He recalled every cold word, every harsh threat, every moment he had chosen Leah over Evelyn. He had locked his legal wife in confinement, humiliated her in front of high society, and even threatened to ruin her entire family to satisfy Leah's petty jealousy. At dawn, Aaron walked out of the study with bloodshot eyes. Leah rushed to greet him, ready to resume her soft, coquettish act, but he pushed her away before she could touch his clothes. "I know everything about the money you took from our competitors." His voice was low, icy, without a trace of the tenderness he once gave her. "All your sadness, your longing, your helplessness, they were all lies." Leah's face drained of color instantly. She stumbled backward, trying to weave new excuses, tears pouring out artificially. Aaron, they framed me. Those documents are forged. You can't trust outsiders' slander against me. Forged. Aaron tossed the printed transfer records at her feet. The bank's official seal is on every page. The witnesses who signed the deal with you have confessed everything. You left me for $50 million, and you came back only when the funds were nearly exhausted, planning to seize the Blackwood family's assets through me again. Leah's fake tears dried up at once. She abandoned her gentle disguise completely, her eyes filled with vicious resentment. So what if I took the money? Your family looked down on me from the very start. They would never let me marry you. Evelyn's family has power and connections. I was just an obstacle you wanted to discard sooner or later. You had a choice. Aaron's gaze was full of disappointment and disgust. You chose money over me, then came back to manipulate my feelings. You hurt an innocent woman who never did you any harm just to satisfy your greed. I don't care about her. Leah screamed shrilly. I only want the position of Mrs. Blackwood. You promised me that you would divorce her and marry me. That promise was based on your falsehoods. Aaron's tone was final. You will pack all your belongings and leave this mansion before noon today. I will send lawyers to settle all contact between us. Do not appear in front of me or Evelyn ever again. Panic seized Leah. She threw herself at his feet, grabbing the hem of his trousers and begging desperately, but Aaron stepped over her without a second glance and headed straight for Evelyn's secluded wing of the mansion. Chapter 11 Belated Apology, Evelyn's Unshakable Resolution. Aaron knocked gently on Evelyn's bedroom door at sunrise. When she opened the door, her expression remained calm and distant, no trace of softness left in her eyes. He had prepared thousands of words of apology, but all sentences stuck in his throat the moment he met her indifferent gaze. He lowered his head slightly, a rare gesture of submission from the arrogant financial tycoon. I have found out all of Leah's schemes. She left me 3 years ago for a large bribe from our competitors, and every word of grievance she told me was a lie. Evelyn nodded faintly, without surprise. I suspected as much long ago. Her acting was too flawless, too deliberate to be genuine sorrow. Aaron's heart ached more intensely at her calm acceptance. She had seen through everything, yet she had endured all the humiliation alone without throwing tantrums or spreading rumors to ruin Leah's reputation. I owe you an unforgivable apology. His voice carried heavy remorse. I humiliated you at the charity gala, confined you to the mansion, threatened your family, and ignored all your kindness over these 3 years. I was blind, consumed by a false memory of love, and hurt the only person who truly cared for me. He reached out his hand, wanting to touch her wrist where his violent grip had left bruises weeks before, but Evelyn stepped back slightly to avoid his touch. It does not matter anymore. She spoke evenly. The harm has already been done. Your belated repentance cannot erase the shame I endured in front of all New York's elites, nor can it undo the threats you leveled against my family. I will make up for everything. Aaron looked at her anxiously, a desperate panic rising in his chest at her cold distance. I will send Leah away permanently, cancel your confinement, compensate your family with sufficient capital and industrial shares, and listen to all your demands. Stay with me, Evelyn. I will treat you well for the rest of my life. I will learn to cherish you. Evelyn shook her head slowly, her resolve unwavering. I do not want compensation, nor do I want your belated affection. I have already made up my mind about the divorce. Aaron's face paled instantly. He had assumed that once Leah's lies were exposed, Evelyn would forgive him and give their marriage a second chance. He had never considered that her heart had died completely, beyond repair. You cannot leave me. His voice turned shaky, losing his usual domineering poise. This family, this entire enterprise needs you. I need you. You do not need me. Evelyn stared straight into his eyes, clear and decisive. You only need someone to stabilize your household and take care of your trivial troubles when you are tired. 3 years ago, you married me for family interests. Now you beg me to stay only because your so-called true love turned out to be a fraud. This is not love, Aaron, it is just reliance on my convenience. I love you now, Truly. He insisted eagerly, stepping forward to close the distance between them. All these days watching you silently endure, watching you take care of my old injury without asking for anything in return, my heart has gradually belonged to you. Your love came too late. A faint, bitter smile tugged at Evelyn's lips. I spent 3 years waiting for a shred of warmth from you, and I received nothing but coldness, threats, and humiliation. By the time you finally notice me, I have already walked out of the illusion of loving you. She turned to the desk beside the window and picked up a complete set of divorce documents she had drafted during her confinement, placing them in his hands. Every clause was reasonable, fair, and did not demand excessive wealth or retaliation against the Blackwood family. She only requested the freedom to cut all ties. I have sorted out all the property division clauses. I will return all the luxury gifts and jewelry the Blackwood family gave me during the marriage. I only ask for a small amount of liquid capital to restart my independent investment career and full freedom to break off this political marriage. Aaron held the divorce papers tightly, his fingers trembling. The printed words on the pages felt scorching, burning every inch of his skin. He had the power to block the divorce legally, to use the family alliance to pressure Evelyn's relatives again, but he could not bear to inflict more pain on the woman he had wronged repeatedly. I will not sign these papers. He whispered hoarsely. Give me more time to make amends, to prove that I can be the husband you deserve. There is no more time to give. Evelyn closed the door gently in front of him, separating their two worlds with a thin wooden panel. You have your regrets, and I have my future. Our paths diverge here. Outside the door, Aaron stood alone in the corridor for hours, clutching the unsigned divorce papers, staring blankly at the closed bedroom door. The mansion was quiet, yet every corner echoed with the countless cruel words he had said to Evelyn over the past months. Chapter 12 Leah's desperate counterattack, a final dangerous plot. Kicked out of the master suite, Leah refused to leave the mansion as Aaron ordered. She hid in the unused west wing, racking her brain for a way to reverse her doomed fate. If she lost the chance to bind Aaron, she would soon run out of the stolen venture funds and fall back into ordinary, penniless life, a future she could never accept. That afternoon, she sneaked into Evelyn's study and stole a confidential draft of Blackwood's new overseas investment project. She planned to leak the document to the rival consortium that had paid her 3 years ago, in exchange for another large sum of money and a chance to frame Evelyn for leaking business secrets. If the public believed Evelyn had betrayed the group's core business data, Aaron would hate her thoroughly, abandon the idea of reconciling with his wife, and turn back to Leah as his only reliable partner. Leah sent the confidential file to the rival's contact person that night, anonymously attaching fabricated chat logs to frame Evelyn as the leaker. She thought her scheme was flawless, unaware that Aaron had arranged bodyguards and surveillance cameras all over the mansion after uncovering her lies. Every movement Leah made in the study, every email she sent from a hidden portable computer, was fully recorded and stored in Aaron's server. The next morning, the rival consortium suddenly released a public statement claiming they had obtained Blackwood's internal investment plans through Mrs. Evelyn Blackwood. Stock prices of the Blackwood Group dropped sharply within minutes, triggering panic among shareholders. Family elders rushed to the mansion in a rage, demanding Aaron punish Evelyn severely for corporate betrayal. Leah appeared at the meeting on purpose, pretending to worry about the group's losses and subtly hinting that Evelyn had always resented the Blackwood family and would take revenge through commercial sabotage. All the elders fell for her act, blasting Evelyn for ungrateful betrayal before Aaron could speak a word in her defense. Just as the crowd's anger reached its peak, Aaron projected the surveillance footage and email records onto the meeting room screen. The clear video showed Leah sneaking into Evelyn's study and copying the confidential documents. The email logs proved she was the one who sent the data to competitors and forged evidence against Evelyn. The room fell dead silent instantly. All elders stared at Leah in shock and fury, realizing they had blindly trusted a scheming outsider and wronged their legal daughter-in-law. Leah's face turned ashen. She tried to deny the footage, claiming it was edited and forged, but the complete server logs and digital signature evidence left no room for argument. Your endless schemes end today. Aaron's voice was cold and unyielding. I have already contacted lawyers and the police. You will face criminal charges for commercial espionage and fraud. The compensation lawsuit the Blackwood Group files against you will seize all assets you bought with the bribe money 3 years ago. 2 police officers entered the meeting room moments later, arresting Leah on the spot. She struggled and screamed, cursing both Aaron and Evelyn, before being escorted out of the mansion in handcuffs. With Leah's arrest, all the turmoil and entanglement that had plagued the Blackwood household finally faded away. The elders approached Evelyn one after another, bowing to apologize for their unfair judgment and harsh treatment during her confinement. They begged her to stay in the family and maintain the marriage alliance. Evelyn listened to their apologies calmly, but she did not waver in her decision to divorce. No amount of family repentance could mend the deep wounds left by months of injustice. Chapter 13 Divorce and Liberation, Aaron's lifelong regret. A week later, the divorce procedures were formally completed at the family legal firm. Aaron had no strength left to resist Evelyn's demands, signing every document with heavy, exhausted strokes. He returned all assets belonging to Evelyn's natal family and offered a generous independent fund for her new career, which she only partially accepted, refusing the majority of his compensatory wealth. On the day Evelyn moved out of the Blackwood mansion, the sky was clear and bright. She carried only a small suitcase with her personal belongings, leaving all the luxury clothing, jewelry, and mansion property behind without hesitation. Aaron stood at the front gate, watching her walk toward the taxi alone. He wanted to say countless words to persuade her to stay, but he knew he had no right to ask for her forgiveness. "Take good care of yourself," he whispered, the only sentence he could manage. Evelyn glanced back at him briefly, no hatred or sorrow in her eyes, only peaceful indifference. "You too. Do not let false obsession blind you again." The taxi pulled away from the gate, gradually disappearing from sight around the street corner. Aaron remained standing on the pavement long after the vehicle was gone, an empty loneliness wrapping around him tightly. After Evelyn left, the huge Blackwood mansion lost all warmth. Every room, every courtyard bench, every kitchen counter carried memories of her quiet, gentle care that he had once ignored. Without Evelyn's precise advice on investment risks and careful maintenance of household order, trivial troubles piled up endlessly in both his family and corporate life. He spent every day immersed in endless regret. He had discarded a sincere, intelligent woman for a fabricated love, and only realized her value after he lost her forever. 6 months later, Evelyn built her own independent investment firm in downtown Manhattan. With her sharp vision and rigorous risk control, her small company quickly gained a reputation in Wall Street, attracting numerous high-value partners. She lived freely, without the restraints of a suffocating political marriage, and built a brand new life of her own choosing. Occasionally, Aaron would catch news reports about her thriving enterprise on financial channels. Every time he saw her calm, confident smile in interviews, his heart was stabbed by sharp remorse. He sent countless gifts and apology letters to her office, all of which were returned unopened without exception. His private investigator reported that Evelyn never mentioned his name in public or private conversations, completely erasing him from her new life. Leah was convicted of commercial fraud and espionage a few months after her arrest, sentenced to 5 years in prison, all her illegally obtained properties confiscated to compensate the Blackwood Group's economic losses. She could no longer create any chaos to disrupt Evelyn's peaceful new life. The Blackwood elders repeatedly urged Aaron to find a new spouse to stabilize the family's external relations, yet he refused all blind dates and political marriage arrangements. He had no desire to develop feelings for anyone else, trapped in endless remorse for the irreparable mistake he had made. Chapter 14 Epilogue. One autumn afternoon, Aaron happened to pass by the high-rise office building where Evelyn's investment firm was located. He stood on the street, looking up at the bright floor-to-ceiling windows of her office, catching a faint glimpse of her silhouette as she discussed projects with partners inside. She laughed lightly, relaxed and bright, a vitality he had never seen on her face during their 3 years of cold marriage. He understood fully at that moment. He had once held a pure, precious love in his hands, but he tossed it away for a deceptive illusion. He would spend the rest of his life guarding an empty mansion and a hollow heart, living with the eternal regret of losing the only woman who had ever truly loved him. Upstairs in her office, Evelyn did not notice the lonely man staring up from the street below. She flipped to the next investment report, fully focused on her expanding business empire, completely free from the shackles of the past entanglement, walking steadily toward a bright, independent future that belonged solely to herself. Chapter 15. Empty Mansion, Endless Regret. The autumn wind swept through the hollow corridors of the Blackwood mansion, carrying a cold stillness that had never existed in the past 3 years. Every corner of the luxurious villa was tainted with Evelyn's traces, yet none of her presence remained. The rose trellis where she used to sit and read was neatly trimmed, the study shelves she had sorted were orderly, and the medicinal warm compress tools she had used to soothe his old injury were still placed in the bedroom cabinet, spotless and untouched. Aaron stood alone in the silent study, his long fingers brushing over the stacked financial reports that Evelyn had annotated during her confinement. Her handwriting was neat and sharp, every risk analysis and revision note precise and professional, far more rigorous than the official report submitted by his senior analysts. Back then, he had dismissed her as a trivial, ornamental wife, never bothering to glance at her hidden talents and painstaking efforts. After Evelyn's departure, the trivial chaos that she had silently borne and resolved for 3 years completely erupted. The household staff, who had long fawned over Leah and snubbed Evelyn, grew slack and disorderly without her calm supervision. Meals were no longer tailored to his physical taboos, the old cold injury in his waist flared up frequently without careful maintenance, and the mansion lost all its subtle warmth, turning into a cold, empty luxury cage. More importantly, the Blackwood Group's internal operations fell into unprecedented chaos. Evelyn had quietly sorted out the group's hidden investment loopholes and asset risks during her idle days, stabilizing many unstable overseas projects that Aaron had overlooked in his busy schedule. After she left, those latent risks broke out one after another. Small-scale capital losses occurred frequently, and several overseas cooperative projects fell into operational stagnation due to missing risk adjustment plans. The group's senior executives held emergency meetings repeatedly, yet no one could fill the gap left by Evelyn's precise judgment and rigorous layout. Every time the financial team reported losses and risks, Aaron's mind would instantly flash back to the scene of Evelyn sitting quietly by the window, sorting out project flaws day after day without seeking credit or praise. Regret was no longer a fleeting emotion, but a heavy shackle that wrapped around his heart day and night, eroding his calm and arrogance little by little. He had always believed that power and wealth could make up for everything, that any person could be replaced, and that his marriage was merely a dispensable transaction for family interests. But reality told him cruelly that the most precious sincerity and dedication in the world could never be bought or compensated with money. 3 years of coldness and neglect, countless humiliations and threats, had completely worn away Evelyn's love and patience. She had waited for his warmth for 3 years in vain, and now that she had broken free, she would never look back. Aaron began to suffer from insomnia every night. He would sit alone in the study until dawn, staring at the divorce documents he had refused to sign for countless days, the paper edges already worn out by his repeated touching. He had power over the entire Wall Street financial empire, could control the rise and fall of countless corporate stocks, but he could never control the departure of one woman. The Blackwood elders tried every means to persuade him to let go, urging him to marry another noble lady to stabilize the family's business alliances. They reminded him repeatedly that a tycoon's marriage was never about love, only about interests. But Aaron, who had always regarded interests as the top priority, completely changed his mind. For the first time in his life, he abandoned all business logic and family rules, stubbornly guarding a hopeless regret. "I will never marry anyone else." His tone was cold and firm, leaving no room for negotiation. "The only person who deserves to stand beside me is Evelyn. Even if she never comes back, I will not replace her." The elders sighed helplessly, realizing that the cold, ruthless heir of the Blackwood family had finally been defeated by his own belated love and irreparable regret. Chapter 16. Evelyn's Rise, Independent Glory. While Aaron was trapped in endless remorse and stagnation, Evelyn's new life was thriving at an astonishing speed. After leaving the Blackwood mansion, she rented a sleek, minimalist office in the core business district of Manhattan, registered her independent investment firm named DV Capital, and started her entrepreneurial journey with the small amount of liquid capital she had reserved. She no longer needed to accommodate anyone's preferences, no longer endured cold violence and humiliation, no longer buried her talents for the sake of marital stability. Freed from the shackles of marriage and family politics, her sharp business vision and precise capital operation talent were completely released. Evelyn was well aware of the hidden risk loopholes and profit margins of the high-end financial industry. She had spent 3 years observing and studying the operational model of the Blackwood Group, accumulating countless hidden industry resources and experience that no one knew about. Those days of silent forbearance were not wasted, they had become the most solid foundation for her counterattack. In the first month of its establishment, EV Capital accurately captured a low-profile emerging technology track that all major Wall Street consortia ignored. Evelyn invested all her working capital in the project with decisive courage, conducting rigorous risk assessment and resource docking in advance. In just 3 months, the emerging technology project broke out in the market, with its market value skyrocketing dozens of times overnight. EV Capital gained the first huge profit in its career, quickly becoming a dark horse in the Manhattan financial circle. Unlike other aggressive capital tycoons, Evelyn's investment style was steady, precise, and low-key. She was good at discovering potential projects that were overlooked by the market, avoiding vicious capital competition, and winning stable and high returns with precise judgment. Her calm temperament, professional ability, and unique market perspective quickly attracted the attention of many senior industry practitioners and high-quality cooperative partners. Many old European financial institutions that had previously cooperated with the Blackwood Group took the initiative to contact EV Capital, hoping to reach long-term strategic cooperation. When those old partners mentioned her in front of Aaron, their tones were full of admiration and praise. Mrs. Blackwood is far more talented and capable than the outside world rumored. She is a born capital operator, and your Blackwood Group has lost a priceless treasure. Every word of praise from others was like a sharp needle, piercing Aaron's already broken heart. He had never known how dazzling his ex-wife was until she stood tall and shining in the industry, completely independent of the Blackwood halo. 6 months after its establishment, EV Capital successfully completed 3 rounds of financing, with its market value breaking through hundreds of millions of dollars. Evelyn officially became an independent female entrepreneur who held her own capital empire in Manhattan, no longer attached to any family or man. She moved into a high-rise apartment overlooking the Manhattan skyline, dressed in neat professional suits every day, shuttling between office buildings and industry summits. Her eyes were bright and confident, her demeanor calm and generous, completely shedding the timid and docile appearance of the former Blackwood Mrs. She attended high-end financial summits alone, spoke on stage as a guest speaker, shared her unique investment philosophy, and won unanimous recognition from the industry. All the celebrities who had once mocked her as a pitiful abandoned wife now looked up to her with sincere respect. She had finally gained real dignity and glory, relying entirely on her own strength, not any marriage or family backing. Chapter 17 Repeated Encounters, Unavoidable Heartache. The first official encounter between Aaron and Evelyn after the divorce took place at the annual Wall Street Financial Summit, the most authoritative industry event in New York. The summit gathered all the top financial tycoons, institutional leaders, and outstanding entrepreneurs in North America. Aaron, as the head of the Blackwood Group, was the core guest of the summit, while Evelyn was invited as a rising star in the new capital field to deliver a keynote speech. When Evelyn stepped onto the stage in a silver-gray professional suit, the entire venue fell into a brief silence. The woman on the stage was confident, calm, and eloquent. She analyzed the current capital market trends and future investment risks with precise data and unique perspective, every word professional and powerful. There was no trace of the grievance, weakness, or compromise that she had shown in their marriage. Aaron sat in the front row, his eyes fixed firmly on her figure, unable to move away for a second. His heart was filled with complex emotions of shock, admiration, and overwhelming regret. He had never attended any financial summit with her in 3 years of marriage, never sat down to listen to her views on the industry, never knew that his silent and forbearing wife had such extraordinary talent and insight. All the guests around were whispering praises, marveling at the rapid rise of EV Capital and Evelyn's outstanding ability. No one mentioned her past marriage, no one regarded her as Blackwood's abandoned wife. At this moment, she was only the independent and powerful founder of EV Capital. After Evelyn's speech ended, the audience burst into warm and lasting applause. She bowed slightly to thank everyone, her expression calm and indifferent, without any extra emotion. When she stepped down from the stage and passed the front row, her eye swept over Aaron's face lightly, without pause, without surprise, without hatred, just like passing a stranger who had nothing to do with her life. That indifferent glance was far more heartbreaking than anger and quarrels. It meant that in her world, Aaron was completely erased, no longer worthy of any of her emotions. Aaron suddenly stood up, subconsciously reaching out to stop her. "Evelyn." His voice was low and hoarse, with obvious unease and nervousness, completely losing the domineering aura of a financial tycoon. Evelyn stopped in her tracks, turned her head slightly, and looked at him politely and distantly. "Mr. Blackwood." The unfamiliar and formal address cut off all the past entanglements completely. There was no longer the lingering tenderness of 3 years, no longer the helpless grievance, only the politeness between ordinary industry colleagues. Aaron's throat tightened, and all the words he had prepared to greet and apologize were stuck in his throat. He could only stare at her calm face, feeling endless powerless. "Congratulations on EV Capital's success." He tried to keep his tone steady. "Thank you." Evelyn nodded slightly, her tone flat without any ups and downs. "If Mr. Blackwood has no business cooperation matters, I will excuse myself first. I have a subsequent meeting to attend." She did not give him any chance to talk privately, turned around and left neatly, her back straight and decisive, without any nostalgia. Aaron stood frozen in place, watching her figure disappear into the crowd, surrounded by noisy voices and applause, but his world was dead silent. He finally understood that the gap between them was no longer the estrangement of marriage, but the thorough separation of two completely different lives. Chapter 18: Desperate Pursuit, Self-Tormenting Redemption. After the summit encounter, Aaron's repressed regret completely broke out. He could no longer endure the distance between them and began his long and desperate road of pursuit. He knew he had committed unforgivable mistakes, so he did not dare to ask for her forgiveness blatantly. He could only choose the most humble way to guard her silently and make up for his past mistakes bit by bit. He secretly helped EV Capital block malicious market suppression from competing consortia behind the scenes. When some old rivals of the Blackwood Group tried to target Evelyn's emerging company and suppress her development, Aaron used his industry resources to resolve all hidden dangers silently, without letting Evelyn know anything. He adjusted the Blackwood Group's investment layout on a large scale, taking the initiative to give up many low-end market profit projects that overlapped with EV Capital, leaving sufficient development space for Evelyn's company. He even took the initiative to abandon several long-term cooperative clients with malicious intentions against Evelyn, sacrificing huge profits to clean up her development environment. He remembered all her living habits and preferences that he had ignored in the past. He knew she was used to drinking warm water in the morning, avoiding cold food, and working late into the night when she was busy. He arranged a trusted professional life assistant to take care of her daily life secretly, ensuring that she would not be tired or wronged, but strictly ordered the assistant never to reveal his identity. He paid for all the hidden dangers and trivial troubles around her life and career alone, never leaving any traces, never disturbing her peaceful new life. But all his silent dedication could not bring him any comfort. Every time he saw Evelyn's increasingly brilliant and independent appearance, every time he saw her walking forward firmly without any nostalgia for the past, his heart would be torn apart by regret. He began to appear frequently in the places she often visited. He would sit in the corner of the coffee shop downstairs of her office for an entire afternoon, just to take a glance at her figure walking out of the building after work. He would circle around her apartment community late at night, just to confirm that she was safe and sound. His behavior was like silent self-torment. He had abandoned her wantonly in the past, and now he could only guard her humbly from a distance, not daring to approach, not daring to disturb. The Blackwood Group subordinates watched their boss's abnormal state and felt endless sighs. The cold, ruthless, and high and mighty Mr. Blackwood, who had always controlled everything, had completely fallen into the quagmire of unrequited regret and love, becoming humble and persistent beyond recognition. One rainy night in late autumn, New York was covered in fine cold rain, similar to the night his old waist injury flared up half a year ago. Evelyn worked overtime late in the office, walking out of the building alone with an umbrella. The cold rain soaked the night breeze, and she unconsciously frowned slightly, pressing her lower back gently. She had been overworked recently, and her body was a little tired, with slight cold soreness in her waist. Aaron stood silently in the rain across the road, watching her slight movement, his heart aching sharply. He knew that she had been working hard to start a business alone, bearing all the pressure and hardship silently, never complaining to anyone. All the hardships she endured now were indirectly caused by his past indifference and harm. He could no longer restrain his urge to step forward. He walked quickly across the road, took off his coat and handed it to her, his voice low and hoarse with obvious distress. "It's cold at night, put it on. Don't catch a cold." Evelyn looked up at him, her eyes calm without any waves. She did not take his coat, nor did she avoid him. "Mr. Blackwood, I can take care of myself. There's no need for you to do this. I know I have no qualification." Aaron's Adam's apple rolled slightly, his tone extremely humble, completely different from his former domineering self. "I just don't want you to suffer. Suffering or not is my own choice and my own life." Evelyn's eyes were clear and firm. "I chose to leave, chose to start over, chose to bear all the hardships of starting a business. It has nothing to do with you. You don't need to make up for anything, and I don't need your compensation or care." Every word she said was reasonable and ruthless, completely drawing a clear line between them. Aaron's hands froze in the air, holding the cold coat, feeling endless, powerless and desolate. "Evelyn, can't you give me a single chance to atone for my sins? Chances were given to you 3 years ago." Evelyn's lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "I gave you countless chances to cherish me, to treat me well, to choose me. But you gave all your tenderness and trust to a lie, and used coldness and threats to treat the person who stayed by your side sincerely. Now it's too late. I know it's late." Aaron's voice was slightly trembling, with unprecedented fragility. "But I really regret it. I regret every cold word I said to you, every wrong choice I made. I know you don't love me anymore, but let me guard you, let me make up for you, even if I can only stay by your side as a stranger." "No need." Evelyn shook her head firmly. "The best atonement is to never disturb each other again. Mr. Blackwood, let the past pass. You have your life, and I have my future. We are strangers from now on." After saying that, she turned around and walked straight into the rain, leaving Aaron standing alone in the cold night, completely drowned by the endless cold rain and desperate regret. Chapter 19: Leah's End, The Price of Greed and Lies. While Aaron was trapped in the pain of losing Evelyn, Leah's fate fell into complete darkness. After being arrested on charges of commercial espionage and financial fraud, Leah's lawsuit went through rigorous judicial procedures. All her lies and schemes were completely exposed in court, and all the illegal assets she had obtained through bribery and deception were fully verified and confiscated. The $50 million bribe she had taken from the competing consortium 3 years ago, all the luxury real estate and luxury goods she had purchased overseas, and all the illegal profits she had gained by manipulating Aaron's feelings were all recovered by the court to compensate for the Blackwood Group's economic losses. She had thought she could rely on her beauty and scheming to climb to the top of the upper class, to replace Evelyn and become the noble Mrs. Blackwood, to live a wealthy and extravagant life for a lifetime. But in the end, her endless greed and hypocrisy pushed her into the abyss. During the court trial, Leah completely collapsed and lost all her gentle disguise. She cried hysterically, accusing Aaron of being ruthless and unjust, complaining that the world was unfair to her. "I just want wealth and status. What's wrong with me? If your family hadn't looked down on me and forced you to marry Evelyn, I wouldn't have taken the money. I was forced by reality." Her hysterical excuse was extremely ridiculous in the eyes of everyone in the court. No one sympathized with her. Everyone knew that she had chosen money and betrayal voluntarily, abandoned her sincere feelings for profit, and took the initiative to frame innocent people repeatedly. All her misfortunes were the inevitable result of her own choices. The final judgment sentenced Leah to 5 years of fixed-term imprisonment for commercial fraud and infringement of corporate trade secrets. She was deprived of all political rights and permanently blacklisted by the North American financial industry, completely losing the qualification to engage in any financial-related work. From a glamorous white moonlight loved by a tycoon to a notorious criminal imprisoned in prison, Leah's life fell from the clouds to the bottom in an instant. In the cold prison cell, Leah finally had time to calm down and reflect on everything. She thought of Evelyn's calmness and tolerance, thought of Aaron's sincere and passionate love for her in the past, thought of the perfect life she had once held in her hands but abandoned recklessly. She had always mocked Evelyn as a dull substitute, a poor woman who had no love and could only rely on marriage. But now she realized that Evelyn had the most precious sincerity and steadfastness, and the courage to break free and start over, which she could never have. She lost everything for momentary greed and vanity, leaving only endless regret and despair in prison. But her regret was far less profound than Aaron's. At least Aaron still had someone to miss and atone for. While she had nothing left, no one in the world would care about her fate, no one would feel sorry for her ending. When Aaron received the news of Leah's final judgment, he had no joy or relief. He only felt a deeper emptiness in his heart. Leah's fall was self-inflicted, but her false love had cost him the most precious person in his life. Even if the liar was punished, the lost sincerity and warmth would never come back. Chapter 20: Silent Companionship, Unrequited Long-Term Regret. Time passed quietly, and a full year passed since Evelyn and Aaron's divorce. EV Capital continued to grow steadily in the fierce Manhattan financial competition. With Evelyn's precise layout and steady operation, the company's business scope expanded to cross-border investment, technological innovation financing, and overseas asset management, becoming a rising new force that could not be ignored in the North American financial circle. Evelyn's personal reputation and status continued to rise. She was invited to serve as a special consultant for many international financial institutions, and was rated as one of the top 10 outstanding young entrepreneurs in New York. She was busy with her career every day, her life full and brilliant, without any gaps for past regrets and emotional entanglements. She had completely walked out of the shadow of her failed marriage. She no longer hated Aaron, no longer resented the unfair treatment she had suffered. All the pain and humiliation had turned into motivation for her growth, making her stronger and more independent. For her, Aaron was just a passerby in her life, a part of her past growth experience, no longer affecting her present and future life. But Aaron was still trapped in the quagmire of regret, unable to extricate himself. In the past year, he never had any other emotional entanglements, never accepted any family-arranged blind dates, never had intimate contact with any opposite sex. His life was only work and silent guardianship of Evelyn. He still silently helped EV Capital block all market risks behind the scenes, quietly solved all trivial troubles for Evelyn, and carefully guarded her smooth development. He never let her know all his efforts, never took the initiative to disturb her life, and only chose to guard from a distance silently. He was used to driving past her apartment downstairs every night after work, watching the warm lights in her window, confirming that she was safe and sound, and then driving back to the empty Blackwood mansion alone. The huge mansion was still luxurious and grand, but it was always cold and quiet. No one would prepare warm medicinal packs for his old injury, no one would remember his dietary taboos, no one would quietly sort out the messy project loopholes for him, no one would stay in the empty mansion waiting for his late return. Aaron finally understood what he had lost. He had lost the only person who loved him sincerely, tolerated his flaws silently, guarded his family carefully, and accompanied him steadily through the trivial years. Wealth and power could fill the emptiness of his career, but they could never fill the vacancy in his life and heart. On Evelyn's 28th birthday, Aaron prepared a birthday gift for her for the first time in 4 years. It was a custom-made minimalist diamond necklace, with a tiny rose pendant, corresponding to the rose trellis where she used to sit and read in the mansion. It was the only little preference she had revealed in her 3 years of marriage that he had never noticed. He sent the gift to her office anonymously, without leaving any name or message, only hoping that she could have a happy birthday. In the evening, Aaron stood downstairs of her office building, watching her walk out of the building with her colleagues, smiling brightly and relaxed, wearing a simple clavicle chain, not the necklace he had sent. She did not open the gift, nor did she care about the anonymous birthday present. She had already put aside all the past trivialities and focused entirely on her own life. Aaron stood in the night wind for a long time, the corners of his mouth pulling out a bitter and helpless smile. He knew clearly that he would never have a place in her world again. His belated love, his endless regret, his humble guardianship were all just his own unrequited persistence, unable to stir up any waves in her heart. Chapter 21 Final Separation, Eternal Regret. At the end of the year, the annual Top Financial Person ceremony was grandly held in Manhattan. Evelyn was successfully selected as the annual Top Financial Person, becoming the youngest female winner in the history of the award. The ceremony scene was star-studded, with all the top figures in the industry gathered. Evelyn wore a clean white formal dress, standing on the highest award stage, shining brightly, calmly accepting the highest honor of the industry. In her acceptance speech, she thanked her team, her partners, and her persistent self, but she never mentioned her past marriage, never mentioned Aaron's name from beginning to end. After the award ceremony, many media reporters surrounded her, asking about her emotional status and future life plans. Facing the camera, Evelyn smiled calmly and answered frankly, "I have completely bid farewell to my past. Now I only focus on my career and my own life. I don't have any emotional plans for the time being. Independence and freedom are the best state of life for me now." Her words were broadcast live on the industry platform, falling clearly into Aaron's ears, who was sitting in the guest seat. Every word she said was a thorough farewell to the past and a complete denial of their possibility in the future. After the ceremony ended, Aaron took the initiative to block her way in the quiet corridor. The corridor was empty and quiet, only the soft light falling on their bodies, separating them into two completely independent worlds. "Evelyn." Aaron's voice was low and calm, no longer humble and eager as before, only with endless tiredness and helplessness. "Are we really it impossible forever?" Evelyn looked at him quietly for a few seconds, then nodded gently and firmly. "Yes, Aaron. We have no future. I once loved you with all my youth and sincerity. I waited for you for 3 years, tolerated you for 3 years, and guarded you for 3 years. I exhausted all my love and courage in those 3 years. Love is a two-way street. One-sided forbearance and dedication can never maintain a long-term relationship. When I was wronged, humiliated, and desperate, you never stood by my side. Now that I have walked out of the darkness and seen the light, I will never go back to the past. Your regret is your own business, and my future is my own choice. From today on, we are completely strangers, no longer any past entanglements, no longer any mutual disturbance." These words were the most thorough and decisive farewell she had ever said, completely cutting off all the last traces of fetters between them. Aaron stared at her calm and decisive eyes for a long time, finally letting go of all his persistent obsessions. He knew that he really had no chance, and his lifelong regret was completely settled at this moment. He nodded slowly, his voice hoarse and dry. "Okay. I promise you. No more disturbance, no more entanglement. I will guard your life and career silently in the dark, resolve all risks and troubles for you, and never let you suffer any grievances again. This is my last atonement for you." Evelyn did not respond, just nodded slightly, then turned around and left without looking back. Her figure walked further and further away in the corridor, completely disappearing from his sight. Aaron stood alone in the empty corridor for a long time, until the lights in the corridor were gradually turned off, and the whole space was submerged in darkness. He had the most sincere love in his hands, but he abandoned it for a false illusion. He woke up too late, repented too late, and cherished it too late. From then on, Evelyn moved forward freely and brightly, walking towards her brilliant independent future without any fetters. And Aaron stayed in the endless empty mansion, guarding a lifetime of irreparable regret, spending every day and night in longing and self-blame. He became the most powerful and lonely tycoon in Manhattan, holding endless wealth and power, but losing the only warmth and sincerity in his life forever. The Manhattan night was still prosperous and brilliant, with endless neon lights shining on countless bustling crowds. But in Aaron's world, the light had long been extinguished with Evelyn's departure, leaving only endless ashes and eternal regret.